Hello and welcome to another Drukhari Codex unit by unit video on SkaredCast. Today we look at the Hellion gang packs, part of the witch cult units available to any Drukhari general. Let's begin.
The Dark Kin.
Hello and welcome to another unit by unit video. I am Skari, your grateful host, and today we're going to be looking at the Hellions, another one of the witch cult units. So we're of course taking a complete look at the Drukhari Codex, and we're talking about the different units and how they work on the tabletop. So if this is the first time you've come onto one of the unit by unit videos, the first thing I do is talk a little bit about the lore of the unit itself, where it fits in Drukhari Dark Eldar society, and secondly, we talk about the unit in-game. Of course, for more tactical, in-depth analysis, check the Patreon link for some really cool tactical exclusives down below in the description. If you haven't subscribed or pressed that notification button, become a denizen today and get involved. So, let's dive right in to the good old Hellions. Now, I only own about 10 to 15 of them, but they do go in large units. They can be up to 20 men, and we'll talk about that in a second. But Hellions have always had a really cool kind of spot in my dark, cold, ice heart. So let's dive in. The Hellions. Commorrah's bruised skies are home to war zones that are just as perilous as its barrios and shrouded spires. Through the acrid mists soar arrogant lordlings and winged killers on the hunt. The most savage of these airborne terrors are the Hellions, gangs of feral Drukhari that descend upon their prey in a flurry of hooked blades before hurtling away to safety. Hellions are reprobates and miscreants without exception. Their numbers include aspirants not yet old enough to be chosen as Cabalites, those who have been cast out or exiled by their archons, and those who have rejected the cabals in favor of a lifetime of independence. Hellion gangs have fierce rivalries with the Reavers and Scourges of the upper levels, for they resent, above all, those who flaunt privilege and status. Though Hellions might outwardly maintain that they live for the terror and anarchy of the mean streets, each secretly burns with ambition to become a power in their own right. Hellions ride to war upon skyboards, single-pilot anti-gravity platforms that are highly prized as symbols of independence. Skyboards are sensitive to the slightest pressure. Because of this, and for the sheer thrill of it, Hellions take combat drugs that enhance their reactions still further until they can flip and jink at incredible speed. Their reflexes are sharp as their artfully filled teeth. Unpredictable and wild, Hellions attack the cabals just as often as they participate in real space raids. Hellions make for valued terror troops, and the Heliarchs that lead them are not above dealing with the Cabalites and witch cults, for the right price, of course. Many real space invasions are led by waves of howling, drug-crazed Hellions. When not participating in real space raids or their own aerial turf wars, Hellions can often be found fighting in the arenas of the witch cults. The Skyboard Riders are a perennial favorite amongst spectators, for invariably they either dispatch their opponents in some spectacular fashion, or are themselves torn screaming from the sky. For heightened excitement, the witch cults supply Hellions with all manner of deadly weaponry. Barbed grapnel hooks known as stun claws, toxin-soaked whips called agonizers, and dueling blades sheathed in power fields that can slice through armor or chitin. However, the signature weapon carried by all Hellions is the Hellglaive, a double-sided polearm, double-bladed polearm with recurved hooks that allows a skilled wielder to latch onto nearby objects and change direction in a heartbeat. Such is their skill that a swarm of Hellions can fall upon a knot of enemies and lop off limbs and heads before scattering once more, carrying between them a single-choice victim who is born into the skies to be taken apart at the Hellions' leisure. Hellions, drug-crazed, independent lunatics, the thrill of the hunt and the fight, like a gang, essentially. A biker gang, but of Hellions. Now, I like Hellions. They are really something in the lore. But how do they stand up to this hype in their rules? So anything you want to read, of course, is in the Games Workshop Drukhari Codex. Make sure you go out and pick that up if you haven't already, or get the electronic version. But let's jump in to the Hellions. So Hellions are 3 power level for a unit of 5. 1 Heliarch, which is the squad leader, and 4 Hellions. They have a 14-inch movement with a weapon skill and ballistic skill of 3, a toughness and strength of 3, which is standard for a Drukhari, 1 wound apiece. They have 2 base attacks. The Heliarch has 3, and they are leadership 7 or 8 with the Heliarch, and they have a 5+ save, essentially a 6-up save plus 1 for the Skyboard. They can include up to 5 additional Hellions, up to 10 additional Hellions, or up to 15 additional Hellions. So you start with 5, but you can make 10, 15, or 20, or 11, or whatever. But they can have up to a maximum of 20. Now this can get really cool if you like big, fast-moving hordes. A big block of 20 Hellions can be an impressive and intimidating sight on a real space raid. Sadly, not something you see on a competitive level, but for pickup games, can be a fantastic change of pace for your Witch Cult, Cabal, or Coven forces to have some sort of Hellion presence. What are they equipped with? A Hellglaive, and they ride a Skyboard armed with Splinter Pods. So the Splinter Pods are pretty simple. It's an 18-inch Assault 2 poison weapon. So same like a Splinter Rifle, but it's 2 shots at 18 inches, and it is an assault weapon, so you can advance and shoot it as well. Always something to keep in mind. The Hellglaive is a melee weapon that gives +1 strength and is 2 damage. Now it has no AP, but it is 2 damage. This is highly underestimated by people. 2 damage. You fail an armor save, 2 damage. You fail so they can take out tanks, monsters, swarms, relative ease, simply because each of those attacks that goes through is very efficient at doing damage. Now, unlike, say, the blade veins on a Reaver jet bike unit, they have +1 strength to their weapons. This means that their base strength 4, but you can use combat drugs to increase that strength. A +1 strength drug Hellion unit now has strength 5. You can use the Stims stratagem to make them strength 6, for example. Now this comes really in handy. You know, strength 6 can damage most things, but even at strength 4 or 5, even things that are toughness 8 will still be wounded on 5s and 6s instead of 6s if they're toughness 8. So mess around with that a little bit. They're also very fast at 14 inches, and they do have fly, so they can move around, jump over things, etc., and get around the battlefield relatively quickly. Go to objectives, they can also advance, etc., etc. Let's go into their Wargear options. The Heliarch may take a Phantasm Grenade Launcher. Now this is something we've seen before in the Cabalites and Witches, but it's an 18-inch Assault D3 weapon with strength of 1, so it's wounding pretty much everything on 6s, and only 1 damage. But the ability is, if an enemy unit is hit by a Phantasm Grenade Launcher, it subtracts 1 from its leadership until the end of the turn. Now this can be very handy. Great to be used with the Torment Grenade, which is a stratagem as well, that can cause mortal wounds, or to try and get an enemy unit that has taken damage to be more worried about failing that fateful morale test. If you also mix it with other leadership shenanigans, you could be looking at doing a lot of damage in the morale phase, not just the shooting and assault phase. So just something to keep in mind. The Heliarch may also replace their Hellglaive with either a Splinter Pistol and a Stunclaw, a Splinter Pistol and a Power Sword, or a Splinter Pistol and an Agonizer. Because of their use of strength, and usually using that +1 strength drug, I don't really recommend the Agonizer, because it always wounds things on a 4. The Power Sword can be useful, but then the Power Sword is only strength 3. So, to be honest, I like keeping my Heliarch with a Hellglaive. It's a pretty decent weapon, and it's 2 damage a pop. So I really think that's a great thing to use. The Stunclaw itself is a specific weapon itself. It's a melee weapon with +1 strength, so very similar to your Hellglaive. It's 1 damage, and every time you roll a wound of a 6+, the target suffers a mortal wound in addition to other damage. So with a Heliarch, you have 3 attacks, you're hitting on 3s, you know, you're wounding on, say, 4s or 5s, and your roll of a 6 causes a mortal wound. Now this can work on vehicles, can work on tanks, so if you're looking for a way to try and get some mortal wounds in on the off chance, Stunclaw could be rather handy. If you're also allying one of our cousins, a Farseer, and you want to put Doom on something, something like this can be kind of handy if you do some combinations of that sort. It also is +1 strength, so it kind of goes hand in hand with the Hellglaive. It seems like Hellglaive and Stunclaw are pretty cool, and that extra ability to do mortal wounds could be handy against something with a good armor and or invulnerable save. That's it. That's the only options you have. Other than that, we have abilities. They have the Drukhari ability, Power from Pain, which is a standard, pretty much almost every single thing has it. So turn 1, they get a 6-up Feel No Pain. Turn 2, they reroll advance and charge rolls. Turn 3, +1 to hit in close combat. So they're going in with a lot of attacks, hitting on 2s with a good strength and a decent damage. So keep that in mind. Turn 4, they become fearless. So if you're having big units, don't even have to worry about morale anymore. And turn 5, it's a -1 leadership bubble in and around the area. They also have combat drugs. So they can be +2 to their movement to give them movement 16, +2 to leadership to make them leadership 10 with a Heliarch. They can have +1 strength, which is the one I recommend, +1 toughness, which is pretty cool if you're not running jet bikes, makes them all toughness 4, +1 attack, which is decent, 3 attacks per Hellion. That's 60 attacks for a unit of 20, or 61 attacks. That is crazy, crazy big. +1 strength, which actually works well for them. I already said that. +1 toughness, +1 toughness, +1 strength. +1 toughness, +1 strength, +1 attack. And then the +1 hit, which is the last one. So if you're going against armies that have a lot of negative modifiers to hit in combat, I highly recommend that as well. They also have an ability called Hit and Run. They can fall back and charge in the same turn. This is, I think, a hidden gem, especially now with the big FAQ number 2. What happens is you cannot charge with fly over screens. So what you're going to have to do is either charge or get charged, lock things up in combat, and then use your other turn to move over the screen to get to where you want to go with units with fly to target the juicy insides of an enemy army. The ability that Hellions can fall back, because they fly, they can shoot, and they can still charge afterwards without spending any command points, makes them a very efficient unit at being hard to pin down. Great as a screen, or great as a screen trapper. They can go in, try trap a screen, hug a model, that sort of stuff, and then from there, jump out into the middle of the enemy army. They're a finesse style unit, but they can add a lot of tactical flexibility to your real space raid. They have the Eldari, Drukhari, and Witch Cult keyword. They're infantry. They have a Skyboard, Fly, and Hellion keywords. Now, Hellions come into their own when you take into account the different obsessions. Cult of Strife gives them all an extra attack. So you could go up to 4 attacks per Hellion with a Cult of Strife and +1 attack drug. Imagine, you're looking at 80 attacks that on turn 3 hit on 2s, rerolling charge rolls, and that are strength 4 with 2 damage apiece. That, combined with anything at all, that can be very, very strong, especially at clearing things where they have 2 damage. So they can clear almost anything out. They're very efficient at killing. They just have a hard time against like 2+ armor saves and things like that. But even then, I think they'd surprise a lot of people. Then you have the Cursed Blade. Cursed Blade allows you to, they get +1 strength right off the bat. So now you're looking at a base strength 5 Hellion. They can go up to strength 6 with the +1 strength. That can then be doubled to strength 7, which now you're wounding tanks on 4+. The added bonus of Cult of the Cursed Blade is that they also only ever receive 1 casualty for failing a morale test. So it encourages you to take that big swarm of Hellions, 20 men Hellions. You can lose 18 Hellions in shooting and assault, have 2 left. Only 1 of them will run away, so they have not killed the unit. So I think for Hellions, big packs, I love that obsession the best, simply because it keeps your Hellions around for longer and stops the opponent from just shooting a few of them off and then losing some to morale. The last obsession that you can use is the Cult of Red Grief, which allows you to advance and charge. Not as useful with Hellions, I do not think. Why? Simply because you cannot advance when you fall back. And if you're playing Hellions appropriately, you're going to be wrapping units and then falling back and then shooting and charging again to wrap tanks or wrap different units and really kind of cause a lot of problems for your enemy. So let me know what it is you think about the Hellions. How have you used them? Would you take a big unit of 20, or would you take multiple small units to be harassers? Personally, I've done both, but I cannot wait to try a big unit of 20 Hellions, Cult of the Cursed Blade, simply to make them a force to be reckoned with on the battlefield. I'm Skari, your grateful host. Thank you for tuning in to this unit by unit video. A huge shout out to all the Patreons to the channel. You guys are awesome. If you'd like to get more information, learn more, check the link down below. Pledge and become a denizen today to get access to a lot of exclusive tactical content and coaching. If you'd like to hear from me on a daily basis, well, after all, I'm your grateful host, signing off until next time. Skari out.